I wanted to start something I'm hopefully going to do every episode or every other episode, is a question for the rest of the crew that I have prepared, but no one else knows about. So my question basically is, because we're trying to be the mothership of casual X-Wing and different X-Wing and all sorts of just different ways to play. So just to throw out an odd question, if you could ban one card from X-Wing, the game, one card that's out there, and this is from an FFG forum thread that was started, so if you're one of the people who, like me, obsessively watch it and post on it, you'll probably have thought about it. But let me go to the chief engineer, because you're so smart. Okay.
Well, that's a really good question. I'm a big fan of the game. I like it a lot. It's very hard to choose a card to necessarily ban, because I could see myself in any situation playing most of them. But on the spot, if I had to say, I would probably go with a pilot card, one that I've had particular amounts of trouble with in the past, but one that I also feel like isn't used too often. But when I do face him, he's a particular thorn in my side. I think that I would go with Biggs Darklighter, an X-Wing pilot. And it all comes down to control. Being a chief engineer of the Shuttle Tydirium, I really like to have control. I like it when the hyperdrive purrs when it goes into warp. I like to have all my things in a row, and I like everything to go the way it's planned. But I don't know. Biggs is kind of he controls my actions. If he's kind of surrounded by some other ships, he's making me shoot at him. I don't like people telling me who to shoot at. I like to shoot at who I want to shoot at, and it's not always Biggs. So that's
all right.
It's my
maybe a little too much.
Too much for weak old chief engineer here.
That's actually a pretty good choice, because Biggs actually kind of closes down the design space. Designers always have to remember that Biggs is out there, so they can't, for example, make the X-Wing too good defensively. Otherwise, they'll give a huge advantage to the Rebels.
Right.
Okay, that's a good answer. All right, who wants to go next?
I'll go.
Okay.
So, thinking about this and keeping in mind that maybe our goal is to open up the traditional bounds of X-Wing a little bit, I think push the limit would be what I would get rid of. And,
you stole mine.
You can both say
give about 15 seconds to think of a new one.
I can't think that fast.
Push the limit. Everyone uses it because it's a really, really good card, and I think it's like the original overpowered upgrade card.
Yeah, it's just
that's why I
auto
go with
include. Just the one that everybody goes to. Hey, I'm going to run Dengar. What do I put him on? Oh, push the limit. Oh, since your fellow always would push the limit. Okay, who else? Push the limit. It's just, if you've got an EPT slot and you're not sure what to do, throw on push the limit. It's just
right.
It's just overdone.
Yeah, that's a good choice. That's my prime.
Taking it away opens up a lot of space because you have to do something else.
All right, so here's a question. So imagine Suntir Fel without push the limit. So you've got to do something that actually creates stress.
Right.
What EPT, elite pilot talent, would you give Suntir Fel? Or what would you do to make him actually trigger his special ability?
I don't know enough since I don't play Suntir Fel. I don't have a lot of Imperials, but maybe that can you put the it's the one that lets you do an action. I just used it tonight and I forgot about it. It has the Admiral Akbar looking guy on the front of it. It's the
experimental interface.
Experimental interface. But does he have any other action cards he could do to do it, like an EPT that would let him use an action?
There's a few pilot talent cards with actions on them, but they mostly are pretty bad. I think that
expert handling,
marksmanship is one.
Yeah. Exposed.
Right.
Maybe you wouldn't want to do that though. I mean,
what about elusive?
Anyway.
Elusive gives you a stress, but it forces your opponent to reroll dice. So Suntir Fel, always about the defense. If he affects your dice, by making you re-roll, he gets the stress, which gives him a focus. So when it comes to his turn to actually modify his dice, he has his focus.
I might actually go with stay on target.
Yeah.
Because that lets you reset your dial. I forget exactly how it lets you reset your dial. I think there's some restriction. But you reset your dial and it makes it the maneuver a red maneuver. So that would help him, do a good amount of repositioning, be very squirrely, and you could have a focus at the end of it.
And yeah, that actually is pretty good. Also, playing off his maneuverability. When I used to play Soontir Fel, when I had my Imperial Scepters, I can't remember everything about this card off the top of my head, but I think I used Daredevil on him a bit.
Yeah, that's the card I was kind of thinking of. I don't know the names of those.
Yeah, I think you get a stress token. It's just an action that gives you like a turn, like a one turn, I think.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have to risk getting damage, I think, because he already has a boost. So I remember using that a lot. I don't think I've ever used push element on him, but I think Daredevil I did use a lot.
Okay, so back to me.
Yes.
Now that he stole my answer, I am going to go with something that seems to be becoming like everywhere. And even though I love turrets, I'm taking the TLT away because that thing. It was great when it first came out. Now it seems like it's everywhere. Every list that's got a turreted ship seems to have TLT on it. And I was bemoaning the fact that no one seems to use ion turrets anymore. And that used to be the kind of, really piss off your opponent. Yeah. I can use an ion turret and really mess with them. Now it's, I've got a 3-ship list with TLTs, and it's like, that seems kind of boring. Everybody's taking TLTs. So if I had to choose, I'd take that one. I
saw some stats that basically the store championships, TLTs, there was a lot of them. But since regionals have started, just for tournament stuff, like the number of TLTs has utterly plummeted.
That's right. They do terribly against a lot of the new medalists.
Really?
Interesting. Yeah. I think they really get destroyed by the U-boats list, the three contracted scouts with.
Yeah, it sounds like that destroys every list, though, doesn't it? So.
Well, yeah, particularly these. I mean, they're they can easily take out one Y-wing in a round of shooting before it fires on them, and then reload for another. Take another Y-wing off the board. The very next turn.
I do think push the limit would really change the game quite a bit. And I think
that's my first
go-to. Soontir Fel.
Because it changes not just him, it changes a lot of those very agile ships. That
Twin Laser Turret would have been really good. Would have changed things up if you had taken that away like a month ago.
Yeah, it seems like they've come out with new ships to go beyond that. But push the limit would have been my first go-to, and then obviously TLT.
Before I list mine, I'll give some of the ones that I read in the forums that people said. One that a lot of people did not wanted to get rid of was Veteran Instinct. That the PI battle, the PI war as they called it, was just, so obnoxious that just get rid of Veteran Instinct. It was too much. It was just, boom, everybody gets PS, plus 2 PS. And it's always, you gotta get high PS, and how annoying that was.
It made, it was part of the problem that made the Phantoms really good. They're, it was an auto include on Whisper back when Whisper was a holy terror. Okay, and so to come to my personal hatred and the thing that pisses me off more about X-Wing than anything else, here's my rant wing. Basically,
hey, wait, that's my segment. You can't have that. Don't make me add you to the list of things to complain about.
I'm turning the fasten your seatbelt sign on.
Yeah, boom, ding,
ding, ding.
Trade in representation. So I hate Phantoms, but to be honest, it comes down to I want to ban advanced cloaking device. Okay. Yes, I know they've been quote nerfed, and they're not as utterly powerful as they used to be, but they're still dang good. And basically, a ship that you give it Veteran Instinct, and it's going to go first. And unless you've got a really, really high PS, and it's going to recloak. It's got 4 attack die, which I think is way too much. and it's
that's also a problem.
insane maneuverability. What I see in the TIE Phantom is that it has some very hard counters. It has some things that if you've got them in your list, you crush it. But if you don't have those things in your list, it crushes you. Like the TIE Phantom can defeat your whole list, kind of a thing. That basically, if you don't have a high PS pilot skill ship that can shoot before it cloaks, you're screwed. If you don't have a way to stress it so that it can't recloak, you're screwed. Like, if you don't have these certain things in a Phantom, this one ship will destroy your entire list. And to me, it creates such a version of rock, paper, scissors. Like, oh, do you have this in your list? No, I win. Oh, you do have that in your list? You win. It's just it creates that version of the game that TIE Phantoms are like the worst ship ever made in X-Wing because it's
so much.
And it's not like you can't beat them, but it's just that you have to have these freaking tools, or else most likely they will beat you. And it just ruins. Like, hey, I like to think with X-Wing, as long as you're not super, utterly, uber competitive, you could take 100 points of almost anything and win. Like, hey, I want to take 4 rookie pilots with proton torpedoes and guidance chips and play, and I want to have a decent chance of actually beating things. You know, if I play smart, if I play really well, I want to be able to do that. And the thing about Phantoms is you can't. And that destroys
that advanced
so much.
The advanced cloaking devices, I get where you're going, because without that, they can't recloak after taking that shot, and it does kind of reopen that door.
Yeah.
But it is an auto-include. Every list I've ever seen with the Phantom had one of those. And,
there's very few
and it
lists
was a
that
pain.
worked well without advanced cloaking. There is a couple
Yep.
out there that I think Aaron Bonner ran a Six Sigma list where he had the lower pilot skill Phantoms, and he had them equipped with the Stygium particle accelerator, if I'm not mistaken, and he used them like kind of as blockers and played this really intense positional game with them. That was really cool. That's a really cool use of Phantoms, but it's not typical.
Last year at our store championship, we had a guy who won with 3 generic TIE Phantoms with Stygium particles.
Yeah, that might have been that list.
And that was the only one that beat me. I went into the Final Four undefeated with my 4 TIE Bombers. I mean, 4 TIE Bombers with like Jonas and a bunch of others before expeditions or anything. And I creamed everything I met until I ran into 3 TIE Phantoms.
I really wanted to play that list. I really, really wanted to play that list because I think he would have run into a meat grinder against mine. And we can discuss that later in the show, but it was the one list in that whole tournament. I'm like, I want to play that list because I don't think he's even remotely prepared for what my list could do to it. And we might get a chance to discuss my list later, and it is not a killer list, but it's just the type thing that in those days against Phantoms and some of the other lists out there, it really was kind of a meat grinder that people just shook their heads at. How in the heck is this possible, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So,
but that's the way it was. It's like, and if people use it, it's like either you cream it or it creams you, and it's just the worst version of X-Wing. You know, it just. Oh, you have this? I win. You have that?
Yeah,
why bother
say
playing?
It was definitely a lot worse back in the heyday of the Phantoms, back in I think Wave 5 or so, where it was really like you either had Whisper and Chirnu, or something very similar to Chirnu. You were either flying that list, or you were flying Fat Han with some support, or maybe a TIE Swarm, but probably just either Whisper, Decimator, or Fat Han, who would be able to shoot reliably before Whisper and take her out.
Yeah.
Those were really the dark days of the Phantom. They are definitely a lot more manageable now. And actually, I played a game against someone flying Whisper and Chirnu. I'm flying in the Vassal League right now on Reddit, and I ran up against a player running Whisper and Chirnu, and I made some really bad decisions early on, and I definitely threw away the game in my opening moves, stupidly. It's a new list I'm flying, but at the very end of the game, it came down to my Epsilon leader, who's one of I think he's the Pilot Skill 6 TIFO, the one that takes the stress off everyone at range 1.
Mm-hmm.
It was him against a full health Whisper, right? And I managed to dance around with this Whisper, anticipating where he was going to decloak, or what his maneuver was going to be after he decloaked, and where he was going to decloak. So I would, do a turn into where he was going to be, and then I could barrel roll and just really, really mess with him. And I managed to outfly him for about seven rounds of play. I think this replay is probably up if you want to dig around and find it. But it was a lot of fun. I ended up taking out 2 of his shields before he started flying unpredictably, and eventually lined me up and killed me. But it's a lot of fun. So I don't know. My feelings on Phantom are, these days they're not super bad, but there's definitely lists that if you flew up against a Phantom, you're really, really screwed.
Yeah, I just hate it so much. I think that Advanced Cloaking Device ruins the game so much. It creates that.
It's a really powerful card. Yeah.
That binary and or
like ship, absolutely.
It should be a couple more points probably.
I think it should just be banned. I think I hate it. Like, I hate that card. That whole thing. Like, I have beaten Phantoms. It's not like I've never have, but I just think that it ruins the game because you have to build your list a certain way. But all right, I've already said that. So